I want you to record, sir.
Okay. Good point. Okay. Yeah. There are many reasons. One reason is this, according to this generation, they are thinking differently. Uh, See, the next generation, about alpha generation, what you are going to deal with, Z generation, Z to alpha. Alpha is what you are going to handle in near future. Just the basic understanding. Just to listen this, watch this, and try to understand. There are different mindset of generation.
Or even electricity, kids in the 1800s were born straight into the Industrial Revolution. Childhood didn't look like toys and playgrounds. Instead, it looked like coal dust and factory bells. Many children worked 12-hour shifts in textile mills, squeezing between dangerous machines because their small bodies could fit where adults couldn't. If they weren't in factories, they were down in mines, carrying buckets heavier than themselves. If you thought school was the priority, then you would be wrong. Work was. Imagine being 7 years old and your biggest skill was repairing a machine before it crushed your hand. That was life for millions of kids across Europe and America. Laws protecting children were almost non-existent, so for business owners, child labor was cheap, efficient, and easy to replace. But it wasn't all iron and smoke. These kids also lived through inventions that reshaped the world: steam engines, railroads, and the first telegraphs. If you were lucky enough to escape the factory floor, you might see your town transform from a sleepy village to a crowded industrial city in just a few years. The Lost Generation, 1883 to 1900. Being born in the late 1800s meant your teenage years lined up with the nightmare of World War I. By the time you turned 17, you weren't worried about exams as much as you were ducking shells in the trenches, caked in mud, waiting for the next whistle that meant climb the ladder and probably die. The numbers speak for themselves. Around 8.5 million soldiers were killed, and another 21 million came home injured, many missing limbs or blinded by gas. Even those who survived weren't spared. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 spread through barracks and towns, killing an estimated 50 million people worldwide. For many in this generation, the war ended and then the flu picked up where the artillery left off. And just when the world should have been rebuilding, the 1920s crashed into the Great Depression. Jobs disappeared, banks collapsed, and food lines stretched across cities. No wonder writers like Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald, themselves members of this generation, wrote about disillusionment. The Lost label wasn't about wandering home drunk from a bar. It meant that after war, plague, and poverty, millions of young people felt stripped of direction. Their entire youth had been chewed up by disasters on a scale humanity had never seen before. The great dusty small towns or crowded city streets, and the 29 hit like a hammer. Workers and every meal to that misery, another disaster. A lot of high school were sent overseas. Over 60 million people were killed for this. When the war was over, there wasn't some big sigh of relief. People stepped off trains to find their towns in ruins, their savings gone, and their families scraping by on, and treated wastefulness like a crime. Kids grew up fast because there wasn't much choice. If you didn't help out, your household might not make it through the week. This generation learned discipline the hard way. While modern kids complain about walking to school, these were the kids trudging miles through rain or snow, then coming home. Families, businesses, and communities on sacrifice and self-control. They weren't flashy, but they laid the foundation for the modern middle class. Baby Boomers, 1946 to 1964. After World War II, soldiers came home and decided the best way to celebrate survival was to start families. Lots and lots of them. Between 1946 and 1964, birth rates exploded. Hospitals were packed, nurseries overflowed. They got the name Baby Boomers because so many kids were born after the war. In the US alone, more than 76 million babies showed up, making it the biggest generation the country had ever seen. Growing up in this era felt different. The economy was climbing, suburbs were spreading, and for the first time in decades, optimism was the background music of daily life. A house with a white picket fence, 2 kids, and maybe even a car in the driveway. For many families, that became the standard. Basically, if you didn't have a lawn to mow on Saturday, Growing up with stability gave them the chance to fight for bigger ideals, and a lot of them took it. Generation X, 1965 to 1980. Generation X sounds like a superhero squad, but instead of powers, they got stuck with high divorce rates and being left home alone after school. That's why they were called the latchkey kids. Parents were busy working, so kids came home, unlocked the door themselves, and learned early how to microwave dinner without burning the house down. Their childhood was full of new gadgets and culture. MTV hit the screen blasting music videos all day, Star Wars became a worldwide obsession, and arcades filled up with kids feeding quarters into machines like Pac-Man. At the same time, the Cold War made people think nuclear war could start any second, so growing up meant bouncing between pop culture highs and global paranoia. Some big ways. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Bezos all came straight out of Gen X, proving that latchkey kids could grow up to run the world's biggest tech companies. They were the first to balance hard work with the idea of having a life, which is how we got things like Casual Fridays. In short, Gen X became the cool older siblings of history, the ones who knew life before smartphones, but also knew how to explain memes to their parents. 1981 to 1996. Millennials, also called Generation Y, grew up right as the world was going digital. They remember landline phones and floppy disks, but they also learned to text and post selfies before anyone else. One day you were waiting for dial-up internet to connect, and the next you had a smartphone in your pocket. If adaptability was a skill, millennials had it drilled into them from childhood. Education was a big focus for this generation. Parents pushed college as the key to success, and many went only to graduate into the Great Recession. Imagine finally getting your degree and the job market looks like a tumbleweed rolling by. With student loans piling up, millennials quickly got labeled as lazy or entitled, when in reality, they were just broke. They also flipped the script on what success looks like. Instead of chasing houses with big lawns, many preferred travel, experiences, and side hustles. That's why older generations say millennials killed things like the housing market or chain restaurants. Truth is, those things were already out of reach. You can't buy a house if you're still paying off loans the size of a small country's budget. Culturally, they were the first young enough to master TikTok. Generation Z, 1997 to 2012. Gen Z grew up in a world where Wi-Fi was already everywhere, and phones were basically glued to their hands from day one. Hand them a rotary phone and they'll stare at it like it's a museum piece. For them, Google has always been around. TikTok is as normal as television once was, and memes are basically a second language. If you're part of Gen Z, technology has always been in your life. You didn't have to learn it since it was already there from the start. Many kids in this generation could swipe a tablet before they learned how to write their own name. Social media became the background noise of growing up, with TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat shaping how they talk, joke, and even see the world. But it's not all jokes and dance trends. Gen Z also carries a serious streak. They grew up hearing about climate change, school shootings, and mental health struggles. That mix made them socially aware in a way earlier generations weren't at their age. You'll see teenagers today leading climate marches or running entire businesses from their bedrooms. Their ability to multitask is actually quite impressive. They can do homework, stream on Twitch, and argue in 3 different group chats at the same time. Some call it short attention spans, others call it efficiency. Either way, they're wired to process information at lightning speed. Generation Alpha, 2013 to 2025.
If you got 1 to 4 correct, you're a chaotic thinker. If you got 5 to 8 correct,
Gen Alpha is the first generation born fully in the 21st century. If you're part of this group, you've never known a world without smartphones, streaming, or smart speakers answering questions for you. Their toys talk back, their games are connected to the internet, and classrooms are filled with tablets instead of chalkboards. Some of these kids can work an iPad before they can tie their shoes. For them, asking Siri or Alexa for homework help is normal, and YouTube feels like a better teacher than the one in front of the class. Because of this, Gen Alpha is expected to be even more tech-savvy and socially aware than Gen Z. They're growing up in a time where climate change, artificial intelligence, and global issues are everyday topics. It's shaping them into a generation that knows how to use technology, not just for fun, but also to solve problems. Of course, there's humor in how advanced they are. Parents still trying to figure out how to use the TV remote are raising kids who could probably hack into the smart fridge. first words used to be mama or dada, now it's starting to sound more like hey Siri. Gen Alpha is still young, but they're already showing signs of becoming the AI-assisted, VR-using, problem-solving kids who will redefine what growing up looks like in the digital age. The future generation, post-2025. Kids born after Gen Alpha will grow up in a world that feels more like science fiction than real life today. For this generation, traffic jams might mean flying cars waiting for drone delivery lanes to clear. Kids asking, "Are we there yet?" could be doing it while zipping over skyscrapers instead of sitting in the back seat of a minivan. Technology won't just sit in your pocket, instead it might live in your head. Literally, with brain-computer links being tested, schools could one day offer download days, where kids load up an entire subject in minutes. Forget cramming for a history test, you might wake up knowing it. Of course, daydreaming could get awkward if your thoughts accidentally pop up on a classroom screen. Daily life will also stretch beyond Earth. Space travel is moving fast, and future kids might treat Mars like just another place on the map. Long-distance relationships could mean dating someone who literally lives on another planet. Vacations might switch from beach trips to zero-gravity hotels. This generation will inherit tools we can barely imagine now, and with them, brand new problems. Privacy, identity, and even what it means to be human could all get redefined. But if history shows anything, kids adapt fast, and sometimes faster than the adults raising them.
I'll keep that link for you to watch and make a record, make a note on that for your future reference, because you are going to deal with. What I want you to do is, we'll spend 5 minutes. What are the main trends? Okay, what are the main trends to make education process, introduce new changes in the education process? What are the trends? For instance, one I will tell you, economy. Okay, now you can share your ideas. You can put your ideas according to your understanding, what you have underwent by now. What are the, other than economic things, drive us to introduce new changes for the education? Because we are in the era of proposing educational reforms. Your idea may be vital. If it is very important idea, I can place it there. Now, time start. Put into chat your opinion. What are the, other than economic things, influence of introducing changes for education system? Okay, now time start. You have 5 minutes to come with your opinions. According to your, you can say, according to my understanding, this influence to make changes. What kind of changes? Of course, we can talk in depth. Yeah, time start. Want to put any idea into the chat. Okay. It is boring. Hello? Do you hear me? Are you there? Please raise your hand if you are there. Hey guys, please raise your hand and just show me that you are there. Okay. As I talk with you, UNESCO, United Nations, uh, it's a part of a UN. They come with a new recommendation. They are doing research continuously. They are doing research and looking for trends and comes with their recommendation for the countries. They are supposed to apply those things. Those reforms, because education always is a dynamic process. It's ongoing changing. Usually it is accepted every 5 years time, education must change, because that's what I was asking. What are the other things rather than economic? Okay, two guys put something. According to my knowledge, we should understand about the personal knowledge of children. Okay, focus on creativity based on education. Okay, Afra, I am happy for you. Good, based on more education. This is how you have to contribute for the lessons, because when I am asking something, better when you are going to contribute, then learning take place simultaneously at same time. Okay, but now I'm talking of UNESCO now. UNESCO is the world organization, United National. UNESCO stand for United, wait, National Education and Cultural Education. UNESCO stand for UNESCO report. I will show you what UNESCO means. This is what UNESCO recommendation for education in the future. Sorry.
What kinds of futures do we want to shape? Accelerated climate change, artificial intelligence and biotechnology, increasing exclusion and fragmentation. Our world is becoming more complex and uncertain with many disruptive challenges. Knowledge and learning are humanity's greatest renewable resources for responding to challenges and inventing alternatives. Yet, education doesn't only respond to a changing world. Education transforms the world. But to create the futures we want, we must rethink education. UNESCO has launched a global initiative to reimagine how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet. We are looking at 2050 and beyond, and we want to partner with you to discuss, debate, and re-envision the ways education enables us to become what we want to become. For ourselves, for each other, thinking together so we can act together. Join the conversation and let's make the futures we want.
Okay, that is the main idea. Opening a dialogue. Yeah, I have 4 answers. Yeah, this good piece. This is the beginning of thinking. Okay, when you are going to contribute as a future educators in the field, we just even candle can show us the things, very tiny things in the corners of the world. What sunlight can't show you. There's no one idea is too small. You have to keep that in mind. Yeah, when ideas come together, we can make a bigger and clear picture. If not, that idea is the most wonderful thing human can create. Education is the area refine this thinking. Refine thinking, it helps. Or someday I saw that someone said that to improve creativity, talking of the creativity. Yeah, creativity, is it in, the problem is, there's a problem. Is creativity, it's normally there or can be introduced? Okay, when it comes to psychology of education and sociology of education, we are going to talk in depth that creativity can be introduced, or creativity, it is there. It sits in your head and teacher can open it like opening a window. Okay, if you get a chance, you improve your creativity, but you must have it. But it sleeps, laden, it's sleeping faculties in our brain. Okay, in the process of education, we can make them come out of that. That's okay. You must go. Just want to get rid of that. That is one. I want to show you another small piece. This is what Microsoft, I'm looking for that. Microsoft. Microsoft come with their idea. We'll see that I mean in the real. Yeah. So, future classroom, what Microsoft forecast. Okay. we are having only 2 minutes remaining for this part. I will brief the whole thing. We talk of education. Education got evolution of the one, they now branded as the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 we never discussed it because we are going to talk of 5 in the future lessons. 5 is just a prediction. It's a power of prediction. Or you can say it's not real, but yeah, it's hypothetical. Hypothetical we can talk. Or fiction. Education also like a fiction nowadays. Education, we can forecast in the future tentatively. Okay, it might change. That's what it's a new normal. Now suddenly, now we are dealing with this hybrid system, on site and online. That's what we call new normal. It's not a normal class. It's a new normal. Okay, like that. We don't know what would happen next. Then, of course, according to the situation, context, we change, and we need different skills to handle. So that education school has to introduce these skills for the future, not now. When it comes for the future, it's always a prediction. Prediction is mainly plain philosophy. Power of prediction is the mainly philosophy. Okay. With the help of philosophers, we forecast education. Okay. To focus education, all these things. When it comes to the next era, I hope there won't be any physical schools. More opportunities learn. A lot of things will find with the society called informal learning, not the formal learning. But school, that's my prediction. Schools are there to conduct exams, standard exams. You can learn and come to the school and sit for the exam, you get your accreditation. That may be the next step of the education. Okay, that is my forecast. So by keeping that, they wish you good day. We are having only few seconds to go. I am going to give you a note based on these things and put it to WhatsApp group. And if you are still having any questions, yeah, I'm going to another response from